After a dominating performance in week 2, can the Arizona Cardinals make it 2 in a row?
The Detroit Lions, Alex, certainly hope not.
Well, let's discuss.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Crossover Thursday, week 3. Appreciate football. 2 weeks are already gone. Just keep that in mind. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Matt Dery, Locked On Lions. Thanks for making Locked On Lions and Locked On Cardinals your respective first listen each and every day, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. At Dery Speaks on Twitter for Matt, at Clancy's Corner _ for myself. This is going to be a fun one for all parties involved for very different reasons. As Matt, I had Matt on Locked On Cardinals this summer talking about the Lions and how the Cardinals should be molding themselves around the Lions organization, another perennially losing organization that has now completely flipped the script, and the Cardinals are hoping to do the same. What you're going to get today from Matt and myself is a large chunk of Lions talk in the first segment, Cardinals talk in the second, and then biggest keys to victory, paths to victory for both teams in the third segment. Matt, Lions haven't looked fantastic through 2 weeks. Jared Goff had a tough outing last week against Tampa Bay in a loss. Kind of talk to me about the first 2 weeks and what is going wrong, even though Aiden Hutchinson is having a career year, through 2 weeks.
Always great to be with you, Alex. You're right about Goff. 2 PFF grades in the 40s, unlike him. Red zone issues aplenty right now because they are getting the ball down the field, which they did this past Sunday against Tampa Bay, but just 1 for 7 in the red zone. Some key interceptions that Goff has thrown, and he just does not look comfortable. It almost looks like, Alex, and I know you guys went through this in the second half against Buffalo, some rust, not having preseason, not having the regulars out there. And it's almost like games 1 and 2, at least for the offense, appear to be very rusty and almost like their preseason. They're hopeful that this week they get back to what they do best, and that's running the football. The Lions' identity the last couple of years has been ground and pound, work the clock, smash you with that offensive line, which is the best in the league. And yet last Sunday against Tampa Bay, they threw the ball 55 times against the Todd Bowles defense. And I don't care how many guys were out for the Bucs, including Winfield last Sunday. That's not going to work. And so defense has been pretty good. Back-to-back games, they've held opponents to 20 or under. But offensively, there's some issues here. Hopefully, like we said, at least for the Detroit listeners and viewers here, that it turns around this Sunday. It's not going to be easy, though. But the Lions just don't seem like themselves offensively right now.
Yeah, is this the first thing I thought of, and I'm like, no, that can't be. But it's the first question that popped in my head was, has the NFL caught up to Ben Johnson? And I just don't think that's possible with the offensive mind that he's got. Is this a Dan Campbell thing? Like, are we kicking field goals? Are we going for it on 4th down every time? Is this like a conflict of personalities, or is this just, you think it's just rust?
No, I think it's rust. I think, Sam Laporta was arguably the second best tight end in the NFC last year after George Kittle made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. He's got 6 catches all year. Not enough targets for him. They didn't target St. Brown in week 1. Then he got a ton of targets last week, but the Bucs took Jameson Williams away deep after the first deep ball they hit on. You never saw it again. Mike Sando from The Athletic pointed that out a couple of weeks ago, that somebody told him maybe they'll catch up to Ben Johnson. 2 games is a pretty small sample size to make that kind of statement. I still think with Gibbs and Montgomery in the backfield, with this O-line, with Laporta, with St. Brown and Jameson Williams and some of the other weapons that they have, they're better than how they've looked. I want to see a little bigger sample size before I see the league's catching up to them. And again, Goff just hasn't been himself. There's been some missed throws. Like you said, that interception with the Levante David in his face last week is not going to work. And so still think they're going to move the ball and be okay. Might not be the offense that it was a year ago, but they're also playing a tougher schedule. But to sit here and say, no, we're going to be calling for Hendon Hooker and Goff's being benched after 2 games, I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure. Now, talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown, injury, left, came back, left again, 11 catches over 100 yards. He's the new Cooper Kupp. I don't know why people aren't comparing. Like, he's going to be potentially a better version of him. The absolute dictionary definition of elite possession receiver with wide receiver one, massive upside, all in the same thing. Talk to me about the injury. Is he playing on Sunday, like regardless, or where is he at?
Oh yeah, he's fine. You and I are recording before that injury report comes out here, but I really think that it was a lot of cramping at the end of the game, a little bit of a contusion. He's pretty tough. You're right. For him to miss those last 2 plays in the fourth quarter against Tampa Bay was pretty unusual. But now it seems like after first week where everybody's nervous, he's back and he's fine. Marcus Davenport is going to be a big question for this Sunday. Did not play in week 2. He's a key. He had a really good first game. They need him off the edge opposite of Hutchinson. We'll talk about Hutchinson versus Kelvin Beachum coming up because I think that's a major advantage for the Lions, who will now be facing their 3rd straight second string right tackle, which is crazy that's going to take place. So Hutchinson's been eating, but otherwise injury wise, no, I think they're fine. I do. I think from a health standpoint, that's not an issue.
Yeah, and it's interesting. What I've been, discussing on Locked On Cardinals is the Cardinals defense just has to be top 20, and the Cardinals are a fringe playoff team this year, not next year. Is it the same kind of thing with the Lions? Sure. They've got more talent, top tier, elite talent, with Brian Branch coming in, very young guy, Aiden Hutchinson, obviously. Is this defense, do they just need to be top 15 for the Lions to have Super Bowl aspirations, or is this talent good enough to push the top 10?
Yeah, I was going to say top 15. I mean, you might say Cardinals top 20 with all the young guys that they have. I would say for the Lions, top 15 would be a goal. Remember last year, their pass defense was one of the worst in the league. They're off to a better start because they have better talent back there. You've also got another year of Aaron Glenn as defensive coordinator, so there's consistency there. You add DJ Reader up front. The front looks better. Levi Onwuzurike is a name to watch. He's played extremely well the first 2 weeks and had a great training camp. I refer to him as the training camp Warren Sapp because Levi's in a contract year and all of a sudden looks like a perennial, a really good player. But the secondary is just better. I mean, last year going into the NFC Championship game, you had Cam Sutton and Kendall Vildor starting on the outside at corner. Now, Carlton Davis is a proven veteran. Terrion Arnold is a good football player as a rookie. Has had some issues with his hands and some PIs, but I think he'll bounce back. It's just a deeper group. Amik Robertson's a good player, and now Branch can play safety. So, yeah, on paper they're better. They've already, Hutchinson's off to a monster start. Now it's just about continuing to do what they've been doing because they, like I said, held the Bucs 20 points last week. That's usually pretty good to win.
Yeah, Matt Dery, Locked On Lions, Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, crossover Thursday. We're going to pivot to the Cardinals here in a minute, but this is a perfect transition question. I've been in the camp with Monty Ossenford. He's been under fire. Everything's been boring. They haven't had any splash signings. They didn't go for Christian Wilkins or anybody, any big name. I mean, Marcus Davenport's even a name that they're like, well, why did they could have signed him for? It's like, listen, boring wins. Run the ball, boring wins. With the Lions, it's pretty much been boring. Through the draft, it's been splashy because they've had high draft picks. They chose Penny Sewell when, obviously the Bengals took Jamar Chase, and that's been worked out, marvelously on the right side of the line for the Lions. It's been boring in Detroit. It's been methodical. You have the right coordinators. You have the right head coach. You have the right quarterback. Talk to me about, while it's been a little splashier in Detroit than with the Cardinals so far because they're a year ahead, how boring is good and it's reaping the rewards out there in the Motor City.
Well, you and I talked about it over the summer, and I was talking to Dave Pash, the Cardinals play-by-play voice, about this yesterday on my show too. Yes, maybe Monty is trying to do and emulate what Brad Holmes has done with the Lions, and certainly Dan Campbell and Jonathan Goodwin. It is a good comparison. I mean, you're right. Fans on day one of free agency want to see a splash. Yeah. Lions didn't get DJ Reader until about 4th or 5th day of free agency because he had to go through the injury protocols and take his tests and physicals and stuff. So the Lions have believed in, you're right, let's re-sign our own guys. Let's draft and develop and re-sign. Alex Anzalone's played well. They've re-signed him twice. St. Brown's re-upped. Goff's re-upped. Sewell's re-upped. Taylor Decker's re-upped. These are all guys that they've had. So they haven't gone out and, you're right, had to be splashy. They just want a consistent roster, their type of players. And like you said, I mean, DJ Reader was a big signing, but it wasn't a huge name because they've gone out and gotten Brian Burns to be opposite of Hutch. Right. That would have been nice. That would have cost a lot of money and draft capital. They didn't want to do that. Giants did it. How's that working out? So you're right. It has been a little bit boring, but the Lions like that.
Organic wins, baby. Cardinals next. Crossover Thursday. We'll be right back. This episode of Crossover Thursday is brought to you by our friends at Arena Club. For most of us that like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more for like a Patrick Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. No pun intended. I love collecting, but that's some serious money to drop. And thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's possible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, super important, with a full grade rationale provided an explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnNFL, code LockedOnNFL for 10% off your first purchase. All right. Matt Dery, Locked on Lions, Alex Clancy, Locked on Cardinals. Thanks for making Locked on Lions, Locked on Cardinals, and Locked on NFL as a whole your first listen free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Now it's time for the Cardinals under a microscope. Very different outcome in week 2. I discussed with my listeners yesterday or 2 days ago that we're no longer going to celebrate 158.3 Marvin Harrison Jr. It's on to the next. Because this is the most pivotal game so far in the season for the Cardinals. Naturally, 1 and 2 is a lot different than 2 and 1, especially with a team that is very under-talented. The talent level's, below par on the defensive side of the ball. Matt, from your side, what are your biggest questions for the Cardinals as you start to see from thousands of miles away?
Hold on, Alex. The guy had a perfect passer rating. You can celebrate that.
Yeah, but we're Thursday.
It's not like it was 156. I mean, Kyler Murray, 158.3 is pretty good. And that wasn't a Swiss cheese defense. I mean, I know the Rams were a bit banged up, but I mean, dude, how do you watch this guy? And I've been saying this for months on my show. Week 3 scares me because of what this guy does. It's unbelievable. So you Cardinal fans have to feel good going into the Red Sea on Sunday that, man, we've got Kyler Murray and he can take a broken play and an Aiden Hutchinson, what looks to be a clear sack away, and find a receiver. That's got to make you feel good.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is I've always been in the camp, and you and I have been buddies for a long time now. It's always been Kyler Murray used to winning in spite of Cliff Kingsbury, not because of him. Always, always, always. Starting in week 1, 2019, Kyler Murray's first game when they tied week 1, when the Lions were up double digits at halftime. Cliff Kingsbury came out after the game, said he thought he could get fired at halftime. Kyler Murray brings him back. And there, Tremaine Brock dropped interception from winning that game in Kyler Murray's first game in the NFL. And that's what it was for the 4 years or 5 years that 4 years that Cliff Kingsbury was here. He was always bailing guys out. Now it's a little bit more controlled, and Kyler Murray can still do that. What we saw in week 2 was in a vacuum, perfect, 100%. That's as great as it can be. And that's something that you could say about 3 other quarterbacks in the NFL, 4. It looks different with each one, but yeah, it's special.
By the way, who is Dennis Gardeck?
Yeah, Gardeck the Barbarian, dude. The best sack dance in the NFL. It's an underhanded raise the roof. Okay, he's been a situational pass rusher. He was a special teams savant first. Got some situational pass rush snaps. 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and had this wild 9 sacks in 40 snaps number. And he's just been a guy. He just plays outside linebacker. They haven't had a lot of talent on the outside, and he's been a starter the last couple seasons. And, he's definitely a fan favorite, clubhouse favorite. And he's finally getting, the sack totals the Cardinals absolutely need from the pass rush right now.
Yeah. So take me back, first half of Buffalo, you guys are great. Second half, not so much. And then last week just destroyed and dominated the Rams. Are people, you said earlier, maybe that third wild card, maybe playoffs? Are people talking about that out there?
I think it's still a bit premature, personally. People, fans, media members, I have, there's some media members that like to sugarcoat things here in the Valley that it's playoffs are bust. It's relax, guys. This defense cannot hold up the murderer's row of teams that the Cardinals have to play this year. Okay. And for me, the litmus test for me is where the Cardinals are is if they're on the in the hunt overlay on TV in week 14, that's a win. Regardless, if they're 5 or 6 and 7 at that point, something like that, where they're in the hunt going into week 14 after their bye in week 11, that's a win for me. Can they make the playoffs if that offense plays 80% of what they did against the Rams? Sure. You see worst to first all the time. I just don't know if the defense is currently constructed can sustain the rigors of playing against these high-powered offenses the Cardinals have to face.
Matt and Alex with you on the crossover talking Cardinals. Run defense. I know that was a concern last year. And to be quite honest, I like the way Jonathan Gannon had you guys playing last year, despite 4 wins. But to me, the Lions threw the ball way too much last week. If they want to run, can they? Is that a concern for Arizona?
Yeah. I mean, yes, they can. And yes, it is. Like this is the interior defensive line is improved by bringing in Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols, some rotational pieces in the interior, not having Darius Robinson, their late first-round pick, not having B.J. Ojulari, the pass rusher, even though we're talking about, run defense, it's going to be, a struggle against the best offensive line and a 1-2 punch where if you told me they ran the ball 45 times on Sunday, I'd be like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. You take what the defense gives to you. My angle on this has been the best defense the Cardinals have, whether it be against the run or the pass, is keeping their offense on the field. Just bleeding clock, running the ball, taking every second out of every play clock to keep Jared Goff and that offense on the sidelines. Yes, this could be a quick overcorrection back to, the Cardinals still have massive holes on the defensive side of the ball that can be exploited, especially with a team with an offensive line like the Lions.
But Buda Baker, Dan Campbell made it a point at his press conference Wednesday just to say, listen, this guy's scary, worries us, and they got to know where he is on the field. That's pretty high praise. Yeah.
It's him, it's Jalen Thompson over the top. Their jobs over the last 3 or 4 seasons have been covering up holes for deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball, namely in the cornerback room. They're great open field tacklers. They're ball hawks behind the line of scrimmage. Yes. And I've been in the camp that the Cardinals must extend him. I wouldn't wait until next season when his contract is up.
You mentioned the cornerback room. Former Lion legend Solomon Thomas is back there. Is he starting?
He is Starling Thomas.
Excuse me. I said Solomon.
Yeah. He is starting. He's shown over during the end of last season, during camp this season, and then during the first couple weeks, he's surprised me. He's played well. They have just a lot of question marks. Sean Murphy-Bunting, Garrett Williams, 3rd-round pick from last year is starting to come in. He had a pretty high Pro Football Focus grade playing in the slot, in the nickel. That's the biggest question mark. That position group is most directly correlative to wins and losses for the Cardinals, in my opinion, this year, because it's only going to get worse with the amount of wide receiver ones the Cardinals are going to have to defend against. So, yeah, it's been okay, and so far so good. Is fine. B-, C+ can get it done.
So are we going to see Marvin Harrison week 1, Marvin Harrison Jr., or week 2 this week?
Yes. I think it's going to be both. It's going to be a mixture. Like, we've seen both. And I think that, week 1 was not only you're on the road against a perennial, AFC championship, suitor. Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. never played on the field together before, aside from practice and camp. And I think that it's finally going to be a way to unlock this offense in a sense that it makes it easier for everybody else to get open to. So I'm not saying you're using Marvin Harrison Jr. as a decoy ever, because he's going to be the wide receiver 1 forever for the next decade, you hope. But it's going to be a lot of Trey McBride. It's going to be a lot of Michael Wilson. It's going to be a lot of Greg Dortch in the slot. And then if you have a light box, James Conner will eat your life. So it really depends on what they want to do with Aaron Glenn. I mean, it's going to be a huge determination on their part on how they scheme around this team. And the Cardinals have the pieces everywhere to adapt. So I think it's going to be more game flow. They're never going to force him the ball. Ever, ever, ever. That is not Drew Petzing's credo. That's not his motto. That's not what he does. You just think that Marvin Harrison Jr. will be able to get open more than other receivers will.
Yeah, like I said before, I think the Lions feel so much better about their corners, but still allowed a 100-yard receiver in Cooper Kupp in week 1. Still allowed a 100-yard receiver in the first half this past Sunday in Chris Godwin, then made some adjustments and it got better. But it's not this explosive, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson end of last year, 200-yard games. So that's at least good. So we'll see.
This is going to be an absolute battle. It's going to tell a lot about both teams. Like, it's a perfect time. It's a perfect litmus test for both teams.
Yes.
And we'll see how it shakes up. What are the paths to victories for both teams? Matt, Dery, and I will discuss that as we roll on here. Crossover Thursday, Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. This episode of Crossover Thursday is brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard a lot of, we've talked about FanDuel a lot, and they're America's #1 sportsbook. So, why wouldn't we? Well, we've got something a little different. If you haven't checked out Sunday Ticket on YouTube or YouTube TV, do it. And the easiest way to do it and the cheapest way to do it out the gate is do it through FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market games. They're adding more games to the afternoon, those marquee games. It's going to be more. You can watch them all with the YouTube TV base plan. All you need is a Google account and current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. All right. So here's the thing. Matt, Dery of Locked On Lions. I'm like 65% terrified and 35% confident.
Yeah.
And I think it should be flipped for the Lions. I think that's about right. Where
I'm lower. I'm at 55-45. I've told you this game has scared me from the minute the schedule came out. I was like, why are you? I said when we did, you did do the schedule game on the show, and I said I'm counting this as a loss. Now I didn't have them losing to Tampa at home, but I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't. I think this is dangerous. I think going out west is tough. I just like how Gannon coaches. I think you guys are in every game like you were last year, and Kyler to me could be the difference maker, and maybe a Prater 55-yarder or something, which we've seen in Detroit, could decide this game. This is not going to be an easy game for the Lions.
So what are the paths to victory for you for the Lions? Like, what are the keys to victory here?
Well, they got to get back to running the ball. 55 pass attempts last Sunday is unacceptable, and I think they will. Pounding David Montgomery, and that could be the thing. The Lions offensive line could just manhandle the Cardinals front, and Montgomery could get 20 carries and get 100 yards, and Gibbs could get 17 carries and get 90 yards. It could be that type of day. When the Lions were so successful last year, go back to the Green Bay game in Green Bay and some others, they just pounded people with that ground game, and that was Dan Campbell football. So if they get back to that, certainly containing Murray, I just think, Hutchinson's going to get in there. Kelvin Beachum as a backup right tackle is a solid vet, but he's not Williams. So if Hutch can get there, he's got to finish. There's got to be, taking Kyler to the ground, or at least a pressure in a hurry that forces a throw out of bounds, as opposed to a Murray 12 to 15-yard scramble. Alex Anzalone is going to be a question mark for this game. He's been their best linebacker the last 2 years, and if he doesn't play, that's a guy that can run down Kyler Murray. Not if they raced, Murray would beat him, but you know what I mean. So I think those are two real big keys that the Lions, if they want to win, have got to kind of shore up a little bit.
Yeah, if you can't protect Kyler Murray, none of this is going to work. It's what I've said since 2019 when he got drafted. That's never more prevalent than on Sunday, where this is a true test for this, offensive line that's been moved around. Paris Johnson Jr. looked good last week. Evan Brown, left guard, he was the highest rated, I believe. He was the highest rated, Pro Football Focus rated offensive lineman for the Cardinals. Left guard was the biggest hole void that the Cardinals had last year. Yalta Froholt is a fringe Pro Bowler at center, coming out of nowhere, got a contract extension before the season started. And then Will Hernandez and Kelvin Beachum on the right are going to have their plates full with Aiden Hutchinson, et cetera. I do see the Cardinals running a little bit more shotgun just because, it gives Kyler Murray an extra second before Aiden Hutchinson's in his face. I think they're going to run the ball, and they're going to try and establish the run like they always do. This is a run-first team, which could, render Aiden Hutchinson a little bit more obsolete than if they were throwing the ball 35 times. And for the Cardinals defensively, the player that scares me the most is Jahmyr Gibbs, because he's the one that can break a 75-yarder, whether it be a swing pass, screen pass, whether he's running, wheel route or he's just running a streak down the sidelines. He's the one. The biggest thing for me, it's not even Amon-Ra St. Brown that's going to eat him. He's going to have 15 catches for 150 yards in it. Like, it's one of those things that Cooper Kupp I expected to have last week. The big plays are the things that'll kill the Cardinals because the defense can't afford to do it. They can't afford Jameson Williams running a go route and just burning, bracketed coverage, which I'm sure that he'll see from time to time from whatever corner and whatever safety, whatever side of the field he's on. The big plays for Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams are the ones that terrify me the most. And I think that, listen, man, if I have to opt between passing and defending the run, I'm just hoping that the Cardinals can sustain under 5 yards a carry and have them run the ball a lot. I'd invite that more than Jared Goff throwing 40-plus times against his defense.
Yeah, I mean, Lions have a lot of talent. They do. And I love the fact that they want to win up front, and they have for the most part. Like I said, especially with the D-line being so improved, now you're going to get, Aleem McNeil freed up a little bit now that DJ Reader has a game under his belt alongside Hutchinson. And if Davenport's healthy, that's a pretty good mix up front. And again, I think Murray just finds a way to escape, which is a little bit scary no matter what defense they're putting out there. Be interesting to see how the kicking game goes. This will be a test for the rookie Jake Bates, his first road game, kicking out there. And I kind of see this as, Vegas had it and our friends at FanDuel had it about 51.5, 52 for over under. They think it's going to be a high scoring ish game. I could see the Lions squeaking by, but I do not think this is going to be an easy one at all.
No, and I agree. And the confidence or kind of wavering confidence in your voice for the last 26 minutes and 24 seconds. You've been like, listen, we're serial. It's not if, then it's not if, it's when things kind of fall by the wayside. This is a different chapter in both of these, organizations' careers just history that neither of us really saw happening. We talk about this, that, like, if you would have told me 10 years ago that, the Cardinals would be here, that the Lions would be where they are, you'd be like, what drug test you? Kind of thing. Yeah. So it's just going to be interesting to see, the one thing that I think the Cardinals may have a leg up on, which is very, very much a work in progress, is I don't see the Lions having a killer instinct. I don't see we're going to step on your proverbial neck team and just take what's ours. The NFC is wide open. The NFC hasn't been this wide open in quite some time, especially with the injuries in San Francisco. Yeah. So there needs to be a team that comes out of the woodwork that has that killer instinct that can just go get a win, ugly, pretty, whatever.
I'll say this. The Lions aren't cocky, though. Like, if you want the one thing that I've really liked about this franchise and organization led by Dan Campbell this entire summer and spring was we're not going to come out and think just because Sports Illustrated says we're a Super Bowl team. Sure. We were 30 minutes away from it last year and gagged it in San Francisco. Oh, we're just going to come out. They've been very grounded. They have said, hey, we're focused on the Rams. And last week, all right, we're 1-0, but we're focused on Tampa Bay. Now it's, all right, we got to go on the road. What can be that step on their neck moment this week could be big drive up 3, 4 minutes to go, and it's just Montgomery down your throat, and they take a knee and they win by 3. That could be watch this. We're just going to pound it. You're not going to stop it. They did that a couple times last year, and they can do it again. That could be that, as opposed to what you're right. What you're saying is a team like Minnesota now feels like they have a chance off to a 2-0 start because the rest of that conference is kind of up for grabs. I see what you're saying.
And kids, don't step on people's necks. We're talking in hypotheticals, and we're talking in metaphors. I'm stoked for this game. Matt Dery, Locked On Lions, at Dery Speaks, does great work over there at Locked On Cardinals for me, at Clancy's Corner _. Man.
Let's do it. It'll be fun. I know. Always love talking to you, Alex. And can't wait.
So thanks for making Locked On Lions and Locked On Cardinals your respective first listen. Now make your second listen Locked On NFL. It's got 2 shows every day now, man. First, the Man Tyler Rowland kicks off your mornings with a double shot of NFL espresso. And then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggin for some real NFL talk. You can check me out, shameless plug, on every Monday morning kicking off the new week with Tyler on Locked On NFL. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast.